Hi, I am Ronda and I am Ronalda Pascal, and welcome to episode 2 of My Story, a weekly feature on DBS Radio where we bring you the voices of the people. Each week, we share the life of one individual, their journey, their struggles, their triumphs, and the moments that shape them into who they are. This week, we feature an entertainment legend whose life has moved between roaring applause and the deafening silence of his own mind. From being recognized across the globe, all while facing struggles with bipolar disorder, drug addiction, and eventually homelessness, he has known both the spotlight and the shadows. This is the story of the highs that made him a household name, and the lows that almost silenced his voice, and the powerful rebuilding of a man who believes that with faith, even a life shattered can be lived again.
Hi everyone, my name is Franklyn Peter Moses, and this here is my story.
To share his journey, Franklyn brought us to Monbruce at the Diocese of Roseau Pastoral Center, a place he says became his refuge, where he found strength and stillness in some of his darkest days. To begin his story, he took us back to his early days.
Born in 1964, to my parents, they're both deceased now, brought up by my extended family, adopted so to speak. And in an area called Pong, so I grew up in Kennedy Avenue. That's all like basically, and River Street, and my mom would take me various places where she lived with her when I was a very young infant. And interestingly, I have great memories of that still. I mean, vivid memories of my childhood years. There's some people who have the uncanny ability to connect dots in their lives and remember significant events at the time, even as a child, you're not aware of it, and then it remains part of your mental landscape. And so I was always wondering growing up. I went to St. Mary's Academy. I had a great aunt, Josephine Ismail, and among all my other family, I love them, they love me, but Josephine Ismail stands out as the single individual who really saw potential in me. In fact, I was quite young growing up in Pong, where, you know, if you grew up in Pong, it's like a little ghetto then. Maybe it isn't now, because that's where the financial center is. And I remember my neighbor. And that's the moment that something that sparked some intellectual curiosity in me. As a child, I may have been 6 or 7, and I said something like, because the neighbor had, you know, we didn't have toilets, so we had a little, you know, we put a little ashes on it, and that's the Barons. And I said, something stinks. As a young child, I'm like, you know, I'm just trying to flex my little thing I learned, you know, from reading. I used to read a lot. I gobble books like Mills and Bones, Enid Blyton, Lady Hardy Boy, and I just gobble books. And my aunt said, "Wow, did you hear Frank?" They called me Frank. I'm like, "What? Did I do wrong? Did I say something wrong?" And she said, "He spoke proper English. He said it stinks." And nobody heard, but she heard. And I was like, yeah. And then that sparked something in me. Like, if you, there's nothing wrong with trying to be upright and speak properly, even as a child. But then you got distracted in sports, and I was brought up by women. My aunt, my grandmother, my other aunt, and you should know, Lucy Blaise and Clifford Gibbons was my cousin who grew up together. I was the only man. My dad wasn't there. So I grew up learning how to wash, cook, iron, do everything a female would know how to do. But all of this, I still had I was still shy and, you know, lacked confidence. But there's some determination that there is more. I can be more. Especially since I was, you know, excellent at what I do in school and other things, and was forming the food in class. I could drown all of the negative stuff that people were saying about Franklyn Moses. He has a nice voice. Yeah, he's funny, but this. And I was just really, really funny at school because I was trying to drown out something when I began to study sociology, and I was trying to drown out some of the pain and anger that I had without having, like, you know, structured home and things like that.
During his school days at the St. Mary's Academy, Franklyn recalls how his journey into the entertainment field was unplanned, yet it fueled a deep-seated desire to entertain.
And then I was forming the fool in class, just giving jokes. And Cuthbert Elwin deceased said in my report card, "If Franklyn Moses does not take himself seriously, he shall fail all his exams in June." That's GCE. Surprise. Touching. I passed everything except religion, though. And And then he says, the greatest challenge I ever got, you forming the fool in class so much. You see the Calypso show, the SMA Calypso show coming up, and that's 1983. He said, you doing the show. With you, let me see you, with all the jokes you have in class. I'm like, me? Never. In class, I'm okay, but not in the crowd. And then I heard a guy, so they had somebody. I was so nervous, I was sweating for 2 weeks under my arm. And they got another guy, Vincent Philpott, and he was more intellectual. And he was emceeing the show using some big words the children couldn't understand, like, it has been decided by consensus. I said, what nonsense is that? What consensus is that? The children know it's consensus. Like, give me the mic. And I said, look at Mr. Foot White and boy, what up? You working in Flower, man? And the crowd started laughing, and I'm like, hold on. What I say, but they're laughing and they're busting their belly. I'm like, they're laughing for me. I'm like, okay, I got you down. And there was no TV, no Facebook, no nothing. So you had to either write your jokes, create your jokes, observe your jokes, and make them relevant and topical and timely. And I began to hone that skill, and here I am.
Despite facing criticism and negativity during his formative years, where he was judged for his appearance and capabilities, Franklyn says he grew strength from those who doubted him, turning their disbelief into fuel. By the early 80s, as his performance grew bigger applause, he realized this wasn't just a pastime but a rare gift, a voice and presence that set him apart and pulled him unmistakably towards the stage. Franklyn recalled that his early work included production like Dearly Beloved and DA Dance Party. He described these as stepping stones that led to what he considers the pinnacle of his career, which was hosting the first ever World Korea Music Festival, where he welcomed the legendary Ophelia Olivachi-Marie on stage.
And I remember what I said. Mes amis, mesdames et messieurs, mes amis, après nous avons présenté la grande chanson, la mondiale, the World Music Korea Festival here in the Commonwealth of Dominica. I was the king of the first carnival city for 20 years, every show, every day, every year for these years. And that started because I was on the radio with Ophelia Marie in the Youth Development Division with a little program called Search. And Myrtle Solomon heard my voice, and the rest was history.
From that moment, Franklyn says his career only kept growing. He went on to work at DBS Radio, where he achieved several important milestones, including giving the legendary WCK band its name.
Henry George of the Ministry of Education under Eugenia Charles had Courtesy Month. That's 1986. And Shimin Green Brown, the late, was the program director at DBS Radio, and we decided to have a courtesy song contest to heighten awareness of being courteous in those days. I said, good morning, hello, courtesy is what we want. And when I emceed that show, co-hosted that show with Charmaine, again, there was no Facebook, no nothing. So people were flocking to entertainment, and there was like, whoa, all over Dominica was there. And we had to get a name for the band. So we had Ashton Lugue, his name is Wackers, and we had Cornell Phillip, and we had Keith Goddard. And I said, okay, Tim Durant was my program director. And they said, okay, we'll come up with a name. And I said, okay, what's your name? Ashton Lugue. Keith, KCW. That's not it. CKW, okay. WCK sounds good. Wackers, Ashton Lugue. After that, you all will get a name. They still got the name. The penultimate award, genre of music in the world, inducted WCK with a name I named in the world. Yeah.
Franklyn went on to elaborate on how he worked with many young people over the years, helping them to hone their talent and find their place in the entertainment industry.
You know, in the name of Jesus, I know God has blessed me to become a destiny helper, a life changer. I like to elevate, empower people to move from one point to the next. So all of the Carnival Queens in the 80s, I was their coordinator, the talent coordinator. So there was Marcella Larrock, Kathy Burton, Kamala John Baptist, there's Cecile Durand, there's Kathy, I mentioned Kathy Burton. In fact, even now, at the age of 60, I just had another winner. Her name is Evelyn LeBlanc. She won the Miss Madame Waptiet. And half of the people in the media, Alex Bruno, in media and MC, Alex Bruno, Val Coffey, the young bull, Marja, Alex Bruno, half of the people that are in the media and entertainment, I discovered them.
Despite the many highs of his career, Franklyn has also endured his share of deep lows. He reflected on a lifelong internal struggle, admitting that something in his thoughts were never quite right. After each performance, once the lights dimmed and the applause faded, he was often left with an overwhelming sense of emptiness. In time, he came to understand that this hollow ache was tied to mental illness he had been quietly battling for years.
Mentally, I don't know if it's my gift or my challenge. It's my battle with a mental challenge called bipolar, and depression that comes and goes suddenly. That's why it's called bipolar stage. And I'm exhausted mentally, and I feel like the depression is coming on, and you have to super exert yourself, and nobody knows about it because I have to please that crowd and that audience, and yeah, it's been a journey. It is a condition that blindsides you. You're not aware of it because you cannot confront what you cannot identify. And if you cannot say that is the problem, then you cannot address that problem. And so in oblivion, I've been living with a lot of energy. I'm a type A personality. I'd exploded with enormous amounts of energy. Whatever I'm doing, I'm an addict. I'm an addictive personality. If I was when I'm worshiping, when I'm into the kingdom behind the veil, I am there. And then the human condition is that the dichotomy of having to think, okay, this is the way I want to go, and then your body pulls you the other way. And then your mind now, as a creative mind, at one moment you're highly creative, next moment here's what has been happening. So for all these consecutive years and nights and shows, I've emceed over 2,000 shows. That's an enormous amount of creative energy expended. Interestingly, when I'm finished with all of this adrenaline and energy, yay, clap, shout, the lights go off, the curtains close, the applause stop, and most of MCs and entertainers will go into deep depression. It's like, that's why it's called bipolar. You're up here, and when I'm finished entertaining thousands of people, nobody asks, who entertains him? Then you've expended all this energy, and then blah. And most entertainers, you want to get back that adrenaline, that rush, because there's no more applause. Unless you find your comfort zone where in your spirit, in your soul, where you're comfortable, you're grounded in Christ, and you're not moved by every wave of doctrine or every energy that moves. And that comes with practice. But until we get to perfection, we're working on to perfection. And I couldn't identify why I was being so depressed. I didn't know. I self-medicated. You tried alcohol, you tried. I know many people have not tried anything. I'm forced to say, yes, I've been an addict because of the personality. And you have to work with that. That is my Achilles heel. I'm not claiming it, by the way. I'm not saying that I have it. I'm saying that I have to face that condition. And so I took medication. I've been to the psych unit for medication and for evaluation many times. And I'm not ashamed to say I needed the help. Because life was unmanageable, and in our rehab it tells when life becomes unmanageable, you need to seek help. There's no man is an island, So been to rehab in Trinidad, been to rehab here, and so emerging out of it, I come to realize how fragile life is, especially if you have total control of your mental faculties.
Franklyn, when did you first get officially diagnosed with bipolar disorder?
As long as 2008. Yes, because I left my work, and that bout of depression, unidentified depression, hit me so much. I was a manager of the radio station in Antigua, and I couldn't cope for a moment. And so I went to England for 6 months. When I came back in 2008, I was still wearing the clothes from England, the big long jackets.
He explained that things became so difficult with bipolar disorder that in 2020, he hit one of the lowest points of his life and ended up living on the streets.
I worked and came back. I said I want to come to Dominica to vote, 2019. So I had to see my daughter, who was studying to become a doctor in Tallahassee, but I lived in Miami. So I flew from New York to Miami. I wanted to come to Dominica on the 6th of December to vote, or was it the 19th? And I flew to Tallahassee, to Atlanta, to New York, back to Miami, back to VC Bird. Got here, getting ready to vote, COVID. My visa was to be renewed, and all kinds of things happened. And depression hit, and didn't handle it properly, and you must continue taking your medication. I must admit, I broke the medication regime, and it one thing led to another, and then homelessness and vagrancy and I mean a place of loss. But I never left home without my Bible. You see, and I remember the scripture that says, although in all of my troubles and difficulties and challenges and setbacks, and people think, well, nobody knows your struggle because everybody lives with their brain, and you're the only one hearing your voices. And for me, there are many, and I have to calculate and make deductions. And I admit I lost it. But in the midst of that, I knew that there was even there in the middle I pain for people. I knew it's because I had the compassion and feeling, because I was feeling what they're feeling. The urgency, the anxiousness, the addiction is like that's all you want to live for. And then if you're strong enough with the help of God, you can emerge out of it with the help of others. Meditation, good friends. Matt Pelty has to be blessed beyond measure. But in my darkness and my hopelessness, Matt Pelty, took on the flashlight of his life and guided my feet towards on the path of recovery. And you never fully recovered. And we say, "Oh, I'm recovered." Yeah. The path of recovery. And then there's a certain turning point in your life when you have arrived at a place of realization and self-realization, realize. But it is a battle. And without having a spiritual understanding, I don't know how your anchor will hold. And I want to boast about the presence of God in my life. Even in the midst, when I was eating dung and dog food and pig food, like the prodigals. And if you have not been prodigal, I have been a prodigal. But the Psalms also says, like a lost sheep, I've gone astray. Come seek your servant. And in that humility, I realize let's live our lives. We're not perfect, but we're striving into perfection. And so it is that spiritual anchor that really helped me.
Where would you spend your days?
Days in town, hoping for alms, nighttime, anywhere you find company. It was, everywhere. Anyway, you could find it. Especially during COVID, there was a group of us, and that's where the Catholic Church, coincidentally, we are there. The Catholic Church started having a morning feeding program on the arch. So most of us slept on the arch. We slept in the market during COVID. Hazel, Ras Hazel in Hillsborough Street would bring the people who slept at the market ginger tea every morning. She was allowed to come out during the COVID. Some of us slept in the market. We live everywhere. And it just, especially during the COVID. So that time was a very, very tormenting time. There's no food, nobody's open, and the town is empty. So I can fight in desert storm. Trust me, I'm a steeped soul here.
Our interview also took us to the Pebbles Park in Roseau, a place where the entertainment legend revealed that he slept many nights.
This is where we would spend our little shelter. Open space, but we had security. We'd get some meals here, and during the COVID, place quiet, and that's it. And then we'll go to the day we'll just go in town.
You feel like this period of your life, the homelessness, it made you even stronger today?
Absolutely. I come to realize it. For all the things we're fighting for, food, shelter, sunlight, a bath, a place to rest your head. If you don't do it while you can, maybe you may get one at the hospital. Or you may get a food present at the psychiatrist. Take care of yourself. Okay. And I don't do it often, but take care of yourself. You've all you've got.
Franklyn expresses hope that as a society, we will grow more compassionate and understanding towards individuals living with mental illness.
I have found that people misjudge because they're not educated on what an addiction is. Some people are addicted to food. Some people addicted to hate. Some people just don't like people. That's a negative emotion. Now, to talk about addiction, all kinds of addiction. Ours, as people with mental challenges, easily identified and tabooed and brought down. But nobody wakes up one morning and says, I'm going to Jolly's Pharmacy and I want $10 of bipolar, I want $4 of high blood pressure, give me $25 of diabetes. You don't ask for it. It's your condition, deal with it. It may be genealogical or whatever, but it's something that you have to face, and you cannot conquer what you cannot identify, and you cannot challenge what you cannot identify. And so once they told me, okay, you're suffering from bipolar, they say, here's how you do it. It's like, you're not manic. People they're highly creative. We are, because for me, people say, well, think outside the box. For moi, there is no box. There's unlimited channels, but to tap into to understand stuff. And nothing really is a mistake. You learn from your mistakes, and nobody's perfect. So I'm just asking people to be gentle with yourself. Okay. For you have a right to be here. You're a child of the universe, just like the trees and the stars.
Franklyn, what is next for you in life? Right now, you're working with Q95, you're rebuilding a name for yourself. What do you see next for you in your lifetime?
Currently, I'm pursuing a course at the University of the Western Indies where I'm doing pre-counseling as a para-counselor. So I'm not necessarily for folks on the outside of wider society, more for the folks that I deal with on the ground. Not sure I could tell them anything because I think I understand personally first-hand knowledge, but to maybe listen better to find out what are the triggers. To better understand the folks who I think my assignment is going towards. So I'm kind of losing the passion for the entertainment. I want to do one more comedy show, and with the help and guidance of my Q95, that I think God has called me to become a person who speaks truth to power and empower people through advertising. So apart from the comedy show, maybe at the end of the year, I am in the process of putting down. I have to document all of these thoughts. A little memoir. Of remembering Dominica in 60 years, and a book. The title is called "How to Get It Done in Half the Time," and I'll show you how you can add 1 additional hour to 24 hours a day, simply by getting up 1 hour earlier. In the name of Jesus. Thank you very much.
Franklyn is encouraging everyone to approach life with patience and steadiness, reminding us that the journey is easy when we take each day as it comes. He believes that with faith in God and trusting in His timing, even the hardest moments become more manageable.
My staying power, my grounding power, my dynamo, and that is the power of Jesus Christ, the changing power of Jesus Christ. Coming into contact with a person who can tell you, listen, I know what you're going through. I want to encourage others. Take it one day at a time because life is precious, very precious.